Domestic abuse survivors will find it easier to move away from their perpetrators under today's proposals. Just explain why that's important and how it would work.
Yeah, well, can I thank you first of all, Gloria, for actually featuring this issue today when so much of the world's attention is focused on international issues. Rightly, we still believe that it is really important that we put in place this vital and, in many cases, unfortunately, life-saving support. So what we're announcing today is a number of different measures. Firstly, we're announcing £125 million to go to support services that operate inside shelters and specialist accommodation for victims. And also, as you just said, we are looking at changing the law and the regulations around that local interest test, which can sometimes be a barrier for a woman who needs to move away from her perpetrator and that area where those crimes took place. And we're also looking at the barriers that are in the way of some women who want to remove the perpetrator from the joint tenancy, and that can also be something that can prevent a woman from being rehoused in a place of safety if that's what she wants and needs.
It's good news, and Women's Aid have welcomed the move, but there are difficulties in how we treat those survivors of domestic abuse more widely. Domestic abuse-related incidents and crimes have doubled in the last 5 years, but the number of prosecutions has fallen every year over the same period. Survivors are being failed by the criminal justice system, aren't they?
Well, you're right to say that we still need to do more, and that's why we put into legislation the Domestic Abuse Act, which is a really landmark piece of legislation with a wide-ranging set of powers and provisions that will enable the police and the criminal justice system to respond more appropriately. It will enable children to be recognised as victims in their own right. It will mean that coercive and controlling behaviour, which is a very insidious form of abuse, often not recognised in the past, will be recognised, and we will see those perpetrators also brought to justice. But of course, there is always more to do, which is why we have significantly ramped up the funding for specialist independent domestic violence advisors in the system. We've increased funding for refuges, and we're working all the time as well, Gloria. This is something that is really difficult to do, but we must do it. We must get to the bottom of why people are actually perpetrating these offences. And part of our Violence Against Women and Girls strategy sets out that we are working through that to understand why people feel the need to abuse their partners and their loved ones in this way. Because ultimately what we want to do is we want to stamp it out.